I'm Maria Gressick. I teach at Bishop's Edmonton School in grade 6 English classroom. I've been using learning intentions and success criteria throughout mostly language arts and in math. We're starting to bring it into some of my other subject areas as well. And I often introduce the learning intention to my students at the beginning of a lesson, and then throughout the lesson I'll keep referring back to it. I post it on the board normally for the students for them to see, and I will explain to the students what the learning intention is, or we'll talk about what the vocabulary means, so that way they understand fully what we're talking about. And then as we work through a lesson, we will talk about what are they doing to show the learning intention, and we will refer back to the learning intention through that way, or if I've already given them success criteria, we'll show how what they're doing is part of the success criteria, so they can see that they're achieving the learning intention. We're learning how to write a newspaper. And yesterday you did an activity where we looked at the different parts of a newspaper article and what those parts tell us in a newspaper article. And you kind of went through it and looked at, took the pieces out, and you wrote down different parts of the newspaper article. You circled it. So now I want to see, based on what we did yesterday and what we've been talking about, you're going to get a set of stickies. You're going to get a set of stickies. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to pick your things. I want you, each sticky, there should be a different part of the newspaper. How many parts you can remember? I remember. How many elements of a newspaper article do you remember? Think of that paper that you did yesterday. Think of this article. Think of what they were asking you to pick out and identify from that article. How many parts, how many elements of a newspaper article can you identify?
We start writing right now.
Body.
Usually our teacher would set a learning goal up on the board, and she would set us with examples on how to get to that, and we would use success criteria and different steps on how to get to the success criteria and how to get to the learning goal and how to set on our goals in order to accomplish our work.
Our teacher has us do different activities based off the different success criteria or the steps to achieve the learning goals, so that we have a better understanding on how to do it.
I find that using my learning intention success criteria is actually creating the questions for them. That is what I base my questions, my assessments on, is I look at that success criteria and I ask them questions that are directly related to those questions. I find that I'm getting away from a lot more of the traditional test type activities where it's like this and what's the answer. Also getting away from a lot of here's 10 math questions, do them and show me. It's a lot more demonstrate, explain. So the different types of tasks, they're getting away from a lot of paper pencil, and they're showing me by different activities by writing on their desk as a whiteboard, and I'm evaluating that instead of just a page of math questions. It's being more creative, and I find that I'm understanding my students' learning better, and the students are understanding their expectations better through that. So when I'm evaluating them, it's almost like success criteria is the rubric, and I know point blank who's meeting it, who's not. It's like black and white, it's very clear cut who can and who's not, being able to do that. And then I can take that success criteria that I'm seeing, oh, this not everybody's understanding this, and that can become a learning intention in itself. So then I can recreate some learning intentions based on what they can and do and what they're struggling still on. To find and find. So partners, we have we're only missing one student, so one group of 3, but mostly partners. And you can verify your answers. Maybe you want to change some of your answers, help a friend, whatnot. You have 2 minutes to do that. Go. second part of this. I need another sticky.
Me too.
Okay, I will give you another sticky in a moment. Challenge number 2. I have a newspaper article.
Oh god.
No.
I have a newspaper article for you. What the challenge is you're going to take the stickies that you just wrote and you're going to place them in the correct spot of the newspaper to show me that you can
I need
identify.
another sticky note though.
Not only do you know the name, but you can identify where they belong in a newspaper article. Because when you're writing your own article, we need to make sure that it's written in correct order. Just like a story is written in a certain order, newspaper articles are written in a certain order as well. You're not going to have the headline at the end of your article, just like you wouldn't have the title of the story at the end of your story. So, this is what the article looks like. Well, I gave you arrows even. So, kind of helped you out here. I gave you arrows. Where certain parts are. I just
I'm not complaining.
I need to put arrows over the parts are. You need to figure out which sticky goes with which arrow.
Oh no.
Okay, so easy.
I don't have
There is no answer sheet.
Let's try.
The answer sheet is in your brains. It's in your head.
Yeah, you're so smart.
Byline, yeah? You get the, I got the lead there too. That's lead, that's lead.
That's lead, okay.
Yeah, that one's lead. That's an I don't know why.
And then facts in the body, okay.
I put facts here because look, there's a line here. See? That's just one specific. There's one here and it's not connected. It'd be connected. I put this one here.
I put them back here. I put them back here because they go up.
Yo, this should really work like that.
I don't.
I don't know either.
How many of you made some adjustments once you met with your friend? How many of you are now more confident with your answers? How many of you want to know the answers? All right, hands down.
Everyone.
So this is our article that we have.
Wow.
Who can tell me what should go at the very top? Headline, right. Car thief caught, trapped in Target veil call. Headline. The second arrow. Jim Day, staff reporter, is the byline. Excellent. It tells us who wrote the article and their position. Next, Canberra. This arrow right here. Place line. Perfect. Our next arrow is this one right here, pointing to a bungling Australian car thief was nabbed after accidentally locking himself in the vehicle. He was trying to steal. We said Wednesday. What is the lead? Yippee! Perfect. I'm going to go to this right here. It is pointing to 2 paragraphs in total, and it has like the end of its arrow on the bottom. Josiah. Body. And one last arrow. Which is the one we have right here. The man, while breaking into the car, had locked himself in the car and couldn't get out. South Australian police said. There. It's the quote.
Yes.
Got
I got all of them.
You just finished
got one wrong.
labeling all the parts of the article. So going back to
Wait a minute, they're all level 3. Very good. Did everyone pass level 3?
taking a look at what I have on the board, we know that we're learning about how to write a newspaper article, and so we need to first, before we can write it itself, we have to learn the elements. Look at my success criteria. What we just did right now. Which of those success criteria have we gone through?
I can name and identify the elements of the newspaper.
Exactly. You named them when you wrote them on your sticky. You identified them when you put your stickies on your paper. Is there any other ones that we did?
I can explain the purpose of each element in a newspaper article.
Exactly. We went through that. You demonstrated that when after you wrote all the different parts on your stickies, and then I asked you, well, what does that tell me? You explained the purpose of it. You have met 2 pieces of the success criteria. You know how to begin writing a newspaper article based on those pieces. Now we're going to delve into this a little bit further, and we are going to look at the next piece of success criteria, which lends itself into a whole learning intention all by itself. I can write a headline that answers 3 out of 5 dollars. And so that is essentially our next learning intention. I am learning to write a headline. And I don't have any success criteria there yet because we're going to come up with that after we have gone through the details of the headline. And so before we do, I'm going to ask you to put this sheet in your binders. And I need my 2 friends, in Heidi and Harriet, to go get the Chromebooks. Go. I'm going to count to 10 minutes. I'm finding that using the success criteria and learning intentions, I can give the students a lot more personalized feedback because I'm able to see and speak to, well, I see you're doing this in your work, which is excellent. Now I notice that you haven't reached this piece of success criteria. How can you, what do you do? What are the next steps? So it's a lot more personalized. For example, in the language arts with their journals, we came up with a success criteria for conventions. And as I walk around and I check the work and give them an orange dot for where they missed something and a green dot for something they're doing well, they can see right away that their improvement, because the less orange dots they have, when more green dots shows that they've improved their work, they're creating their own goals this way. So they'll look at it and like, oh, in my success criteria, I noticed I'm not capitalizing the letter I. So that becomes their goal and they create that goal themselves. They're speaking to it themselves. They're like selecting which part they're not doing and without me saying it. So it's me giving them feedback and them just running with it and creating their own, I guess, goals and their own way of showing that success criteria and their own improvement, and I don't have to do it. So I can step back and they're taking greater ownership of their work. The way I do this is actually, I find that my first step is going to my curriculum, looking at what are the standards for whatever concept I'm teaching. And the learning intention to me is like the big overarching outcomes. And then the success criteria, I get most of my success criteria by looking at what are, for a new curriculum, the cusps, or what are the specific learner outcomes for the students to be doing, because that's where you get your, like, there's lots of adjectives, and that's telling me the actions the students have to do to show me they can meet that learning intention. And so I'm constantly referring back to the curriculum. That's my starting place and that's my ending place. And so that way I can make sure that everything is, I'm teaching what I'm supposed to and they're completely aligned, and I'm not just picking something out that is not relevant to what they're supposed to be learning or to my students. I find students with diverse learning needs need to know what they're learning and make sure it is very clear. And by having the learning intention, they're very clear about what is the expectation for the lesson. And because I often co-create the success criteria with my students, they're able to write down what they see as the success criteria, and it becomes individualized. So it meets their needs. So it's a lot more of them being able to show versus me pick and say, these are the exact things you have to show me. They may be able to show things in a different way. And so by them co-creating the success criteria with me, then I'm automatically modifying, adjusting, or adapting the program for them, and they are able to feel more success because they're able to tell me, well, I can show this learning intention this way. And so they have that success factor that they may not be receiving in the more traditional ways of teaching.
I would just say that I'm super grateful for the learning intentions and success criteria, because it's now easier and faster because we aren't overthinking everything and we're not guessing on how to do things. We just have a look on the board and we say, oh, okay, I can do this and I can check this off. I now know how to do this, and it's just much more easier, and it makes a bigger improvement for all the years of school.
My biggest advice for teachers is to really just do it. It seems like a lot of work, and it is at the beginning. It's sometimes difficult to come up with the success criteria or the learning intention, but there's so much value to it that you see so much positive in your students, within your tasks, within your own teaching. It does make teaching easier in the end, and in the long run you will have lots of success. It just takes a bit of time, but once you get used to it, you will start thinking learning intentions and it becomes second nature. It's easy.